won't get numb. What's happening? Why won't my client numb? Well, I'm Felicia Sams, and I'm here to give you the real reasons why your client won't get numb, or why you think they won't get numb. All right, so let's jump into this. I'm gonna paint this nice scenario for you. You are a artist and you have worked on a client. She's come in your studio, you set numbing cream on her, you waited the recommended time, 20, 30, 40 minutes, you wipe it off, you draw, then all of a sudden after you've drawn or mapped your brows or whatever procedure you're doing, then you get right into it and your client is screaming, oh my God, it hurts so bad. Like, what's going on? Did you not numb me? And they're looking at you like, this is not supposed to hurt this bad. Like, what is going on? So you're thinking to yourself like, why is my client having so much anxiety and why are they in so much pain? I use numbing cream. Well, good people, here's the thing. Everybody's pain tolerance is just gonna be different. So what we do, or what most artists do, is we're like, oh, this numbing product just doesn't work. I'm just gonna get rid of this, toss this aside, go find something else. You find another numbing product, you use that, oh, it works. Oh my gosh, see, this is the good stuff. What I had before wasn't working. So then you start using your new numbing cream, and then you're going good for a while. You do it on client 2, 3, they're wonderful. And then all of a sudden, you get to your 4th client and, oh my God, I feel all this pain again. Well, now you're questioning yourself like, does this stuff really work? So then you get rid of that and you buy a 3rd numbing cream and then you're putting it on the next client and the next client, and then some it works, some it doesn't. So then you're just blaming manufacturer after manufacturer after manufacturer, but you're not really looking into what could possibly be going on. Well, there's a few things that could be happening here. Of course, like I mentioned before, the pain tolerance of a client. Some clients, let me tell you, I don't care what you do. You can lather them up, inject them with numbing cream or numbing product, whatever the case may be, they're still going to be crying like a baby. I have had it before. I have even, back in the days, I had a client and I was doing an eyeliner procedure on her and I went with a Q-tip just to wipe the numbing off of the eyeline area, and she's jumping, talking about it hurt. And then I've had clients before when I just wipe the numbing cream off of their brows and they're jumping. Or as I'm approaching them, they're jumping. They're just panicking because they're just scared. They don't know what's gonna happen. Those people are just going to be really jumpy and really paranoid, and they're probably just gonna say everything hurts anyway. So with that aside, and you know that your client isn't like extra over the top or just really sensitive, then maybe you need to look into a few other options. So when I have my consultations, I always like to ask my client if they have ever had a problem getting numb in the past. So if they've gone to, say, like a dentist and had a procedure, and the dentist usually injects their numbing product, and when they do so, you as the client would know if you have a problem with numbing based on, does that doctor have to continuously inject you to get you to the point where you're comfortable? Or are you the one who you get that one injection and you're good? So if I have a client that says, yeah, I usually have a pretty difficult time getting numb at the dentist office, well, guess what? She's going to just have an issue. So you can go with product number 1, product number 2, product number 100. It doesn't even matter. She's more than likely going to feel a little something. So that's the first thing you need to consider. Does this client have an issue with numbing in general? Because she just might be just resistant to it. So it doesn't matter. And then also another factor could be is true, your numbing product, it does need to be worth something. I mean, if you are on your own and you do not have a physician, then, usually the legal limit in most states, and you should check your state and your county. But where I'm at, we can't have any more than like a 5% numbing cream unless you have a physician. But if we have a physician, so we can use a more medical grade. But if you're in a place and you are an artist and you're on your own, please abide by your state guidelines and only use the recommended amount. So if you're in that range where you're on your own and you're using like a 5% lidocaine, then you can only be able to numb and be able to use only so many variety of numbing creams. But yes, your numbing cream should be adequate. There are a few options, and of course, if you always want to DM me or message me, whatever, or however you need to, you can contact me and I can give you a few recommendations that I have had success with that are not medical grade. And also, this is going to lead into the third part. Another thing is that a lot of times you're using your numbing cream the wrong way. When I have had a student in the past and they leave my class and then they're on with their first couple of clients on their own and they're saying, my client did not numb, she felt it the entire time. I asked them about how they applied their numbing cream. 9 times out of 10, they did it wrong. So their way of putting on their numbing cream, which usually they come back and tell me, is I took the numbing cream, I lathered it on the skin, and I might have occluded it. I waited 30 minutes. I wiped it off. Well, skin is going to be different. If you're working on a client that has thicker skin, or sometimes ethnic skin tends to be a little bit thicker and denser than lighter Fitzpatrick skin is. And so you have to take that into consideration. So if that is the case, then you need to make sure that you're doing a little bit more than just putting the numbing cream on the brows and occluding them and waiting. So what you could do to enhance your numbing is you can go and you need to break up the skin. So there's 2 options that you can use. You can use a buffing block, like a nail buffer, and just gently go over the skin. A second thing that you can do is you can just go over it with some type of dry needle. So if you are doing like an ombre brow and you're using a machine, you can just run over it with your needles with no pigment in it. Just a really quick pass. It's not anything meant to be like all day, like digging in the skin. Very quick pass. It just breaks up the skin. Then if you are doing microblading, you can use like a shader blade and just kind of brush over the skin. Kind of just completely, just gradually kind of break up the skin. After you've done that, then you can apply your numbing cream and allow that to sit. And if you know your client because you've had a consultation or you've discussed this with them, and you know that there's someone who has a difficult time numbing, they're darker Fitzpatrick, then do these steps. You might go back and look at maybe some of the numbing cream that you've had in the past, and you may see that it actually is something that does work for you. So you want to put that on and do it that way. And if you just don't know your client and you want to just be extra cautious, it doesn't hurt to just go ahead and do that step, break up the skin, and then apply the numbing cream, occlude it. But how you know the skin is actually numb or not numb, it looks like it is where you want to see the change of the skin. Is there any difference? If I'm removing the numbing cream and I don't see any difference of any kind, there should be some kind of blanching of the skin, which is obvious to me. So if I don't see that, then that client is not yet numb. So that should be your indication of maybe I need to leave this numbing cream on longer. Always occlude. Don't just, I've seen things that just kind of hang off the skin and it's not really heating up the surface. Like literally wrap it around, you can saran wrap or whatever, just to allow it to lay on there. Because what happens is when you apply that barrier film or that sheet or anything that you're using to occlude it, it will heat that skin up and it heats the numbing cream up, and then it penetrates further and deeper down into the dermis, which then allows it to actually work. We need to make sure that we get it into the dermis. So a lot of times we're not getting it into the dermis. So think about this. If you have someone that you're working on and they have thinner skin, then it's probably easier for that numbing cream to seep down into the dermis without having to do all that stuff. But if you have someone with thicker skin, then you have to do a little bit more to push that numbing cream down into that dermis to actually work. So if you are just taking client after client after client and you're just scooping up with the Q-tip and just lathering on the brows, you're occluding it, you're leaving it for 20 minutes, you wipe it off and then you get started, then maybe the problem might lie with you, the artist, and you may need to do a little bit more. The other thing that you should consider is this. And this is a lot of time that some people, when you're first getting started, artists, when you're getting started, you may struggle with brow mapping. And I understand that. That takes a lot of time and a lot of practice to perfect it. But what happens a lot is that you are wanting to get your client numb, which is wonderful and great. So you numb the brows and you wipe it off and then you begin your mapping. Well, because you're new to it and you may struggle with it, it takes you a long time. So I've seen some artists in the very beginning when they're with their first 1, 2, 3, 4 clients, and they're working and they're mapping and it's taking 30, 40, 50 minutes. I've even seen some where they've said, oh my God, Felicia, it took me like an hour to map her. And I just couldn't get it right. And then finally, once I got it right and we got started, she was jumping all over the place because she was so uncomfortable. Well, if you think about it, you need to really know your numbing cream and how long your numbing cream is gonna last. So if your numbing cream is only gonna last an hour at max from the time you take it off, and it takes you an hour to draw those brows on, guess what? She's not numb. So of course she's gonna feel every single thing you do. It's just that simple. So you need to perfect your mapping and spend time on practicing to kind of increase your speed. Don't have the overall quality of your mapping suffer because you're trying to speed up. But you do, or you may need to consider, and it would be wise to really practice on mapping those brows to perfect that. And then you will notice that your client will be more comfortable throughout the procedure. So definitely look into perfecting and speeding that process up. Now there are ways, and in future videos we will talk about how to actually draw the brows and then numb and then remove the numbing cream off without disturbing the mapping. But that's later on. So right now we want to talk, as we're talking about this numbing process, that is a big issue. So just think, don't beat yourself up about your numbing cream when it's taking you 45 minutes to an hour to map a brow and then you're wondering why they're not numb. That's gonna be really the reason why they're not numb anymore. So you really need to just think overall about all these different things and figure out what works best for you. But don't fall into the trap like a lot of artists do, and they're just going through product after product, throwing this out, finding this, spending money on this, because every time they work on someone, they're having different reactions. So you might find a product that works for client A, but may not work for client B. That's okay. Things happen. That's why you should have numbing creams that may consist of different numbing ingredients. So usually the main numbing ingredients in most products would be things like tetracaine, lidocaine, benzocaine, things like that. So you might have clients that may be allergic to tetracaine. So it's wise to have those numbing cream products that have, maybe they don't have tetracaine, but they have lidocaine, or they don't have benzocaine, but they have tetracaine. You just need to be able to mix it up, because you don't want to be able to look at your client's medical history and you see they're allergic to something and you only have a numbing cream that is based on tetracaine, benzocaine, and lidocaine, and they're allergic to two of the ingredients that are in there. So you should have a variety. Some things may work for one client and may not work for another. So it's okay to have a variety of these products, but just don't throw them out thinking that it just doesn't work or this isn't good, because guess what? When you throw that out and then you go to the next product and you realize that doesn't work, you're gonna wish that you had that old product because maybe that would have worked on this new client. You get me? So you gotta be able to use a variety of things and don't get so frustrated with yourself. And also, when it comes to the numbing process, you also have to consider what you're doing. So you have microblading, and then you might be doing a brow or you might be doing a machine brow. Well, the fact is that microblading tends to hurt more. You feel it a little bit more. So you can't compare client A and client B. Client A had microblading, client B had an ombre brow. And then they're two different people anyways. They got two different procedures. They're two different people. They have two different pain tolerances. So you cannot just look at a numbing cream and say, this doesn't work because I used it on client A, I used it on client B. They may both have had bad experience, so one had a good one and one had a bad one. But keep in mind, microblading just in general is just going to be a little bit more uncomfortable than a machine, So just keep all of those things in mind. And once again, don't beat yourself up. If your client is a numbing, you do everything you can to provide them a great experience and always educate them on what can happen and their overall experience in this whole permanent makeup journey, because it's up to you as the artist to do that. So I hope I have been very helpful in helping you decide on what to do and how to do it when it comes to numbing. I've been approached by many students who have mentioned that they have received poor quality training. As a result, I have developed a microblading refresher course that addresses